So you want to know how to keep cherry shrimp alive, or you've tried to keep them and they just keep dying off? Well, we're going to dive into how to keep cherry shrimp and how to keep them thriving. Let's dive right in. Hello everyone and welcome back to AB-Aquariums. In today's video we're going to go into cherry shrimp or Neocaridina shrimp and all the colour varieties that come under that banner. They're all basically cherry shrimp, whether they're blue, yellow, orange or red. They all come under the cherry shrimp species. So let's dive right into that and have a look into cherry shrimp. Right, so cherry shrimp or Neocaridina shrimp, originally from Eastern Asia, but most of the, well, 99% of the shrimp in the hobby now are all captive bred, and a lot of the colours you would have seen in nature would have been like greens and browns and very bland colours. So all the reds and the blues and the yellows that we see in the hobby today are all sort of bred to be that way. Yeah, a lot of the bland coloured Neocaridina shrimp would have been bred out by hobbyists and obviously fish farms and places like that wanted to breed shrimp en masse. They would have been highly culled and still are to get those really nice colours that we like to see in our aquariums. So yeah, Neocaridina shrimp, where do you really start with them? To be fair, you don't really want to be putting them in a brand new tank. If you're fairly new to fish keeping, you don't want to be getting a group of these and putting them straight into a fairly new tank, really. I mean, you probably could keep them going for a little while, but it's not really going to help them long term. So really what you want to be doing, it might seem a little bit backwards, but you really want to have your tank set up just kind of bare for a while. Just let it all grow in, let the algae start growing in the tank. You know, you can have a few snails in there, no problem at all, but let everything start growing in the tank, let the bacteria build up, let all the surfaces get a bit, like when something's been underwater it starts to go a little bit slimy. Let all the surfaces go a bit slimy, let all that sort of goodness build up in the tank. It might take a month or two to get to that point, and then you could probably go for a small group of cherry shrimp. You know, in terms of tank size, we're talking about, you know, like sort of a 5 or 10 gallon tank, so nothing too big to start with, but you get a sort of small group of 6 cherry shrimp. You know, what's that going to be, about 20 quid, something like that? Not too bad. Put them in the tank. After your tank's been running for like a month or two, you've got that algae growing in there, you've got diatom algae, a bit of green algae on the surfaces. You know, everything's sort of grown in, you've got that nice slime all over the wood and rock that you've got in there. They love all that, happy days, that's what they want to that's what they want to munch on. So you've got a group of 6 in there, they're starting to do well. In terms of the water parameters for keeping them, really you're going to want around neutral pH. You know, you can go a little bit lower than that, a little bit higher, but generally most of the water that we see coming out of our taps should be alright, as long as there's a little bit of minerals inside the water, you know, some calcium to help the shrimp shed, because they shed their shells or their skins periodically to basically grow a new one on the outside, but they need to absorb calcium from what they're consuming to make those new skins and shells. A bit like a crab, you know, when they're shedding. They'll need a little bit of minerals in the water, but around neutral pH should be fine. But yeah, I'd definitely recommend keeping them. They're such a great little thing to watch, and they'll just produce more. You know, you just have so many more shrimp in your tank in a short period of time, you won't believe it. You know, like once you've got that group of 6 going and they're thriving, they're munching all that good sort of like diatom algae and slimy stuff all over the surfaces, they'll love all that bacterial food they love. They'll soon start breeding away, and you'll have males jumping on the females' backs, and the females carry the eggs on like what looks like in an area on their back there, and they'll be fertilised and they'll drop down to their sort of abdomen area, and they'll sort of be fanned. The female shrimp will fan the eggs, and you'll see them sort of whisking them about with those little fan things on the back. And then they'll slowly start dropping the eggs, but they'll be live when they get dropped. So the females start dropping these eggs, but they'll be live shrimp by that point. Very tiny, you'll barely even see them. You all of a sudden you'll start seeing shrimp that are sort of like just small shrimp knocking about, because they're so small, it's so hard to see them. They won't even add much colour to them either. Sometimes they look very bland when they're young. You'll have some babies knocking about in there, and they'll be, you know, doing the same sort of thing. You keep plenty of algae growing in there, bit of highlight. You know, a bit of any sort of feed will do, any sort of fish food. If you're keeping small fish with them, any sort of fish food, they'll consume that, no problem at all. They don't need any sort of shrimp specific food. You know, they really are bottom of the food chain in nature. They'll just consume anything. They'll even consume sort of food that's been missed by other fish, and sometimes even some fish waste. They'll go through some fish waste and get some goodness out of that and break it down even further. So that, yeah, they'll consume anything in the tank. and I'd highly recommend them. You know, for a beginner invertebrate to keep, they really are quite a good option. You know, you've got loads of colour options. You've got something a little bit different to like your standard like fish that you keep in an aquarium. Something a little bit different that will sort of cover a different area on the surfaces. You know, a little bit more interesting to watch. One thing to bear in mind if you do want to keep cherry shrimp going is don't just get all the colourful shrimp when you're going to the fish shop to choose them. Say if you're getting a group of 6, you might choose the thicker, bigger ones that are really deep dark red, and they'll normally be the females. The females for some reason carry most of the colour, but you really want some of the slightly less colourful males as well. They'll be a lot thinner, like the abdomen area will be a lot thinner, and they'll be a bit more arrow shaped. You'll notice a clear difference. The females will be a lot more plump and the males will be a lot slimmer and not as colourful. So if you want to get a nice breeding group going, maybe get half of each, maybe get 2 or 3 females and 3 or 4 males, or vice versa, maybe a couple of males and 4 females, because to be fair, obviously the females are carrying the eggs, so really as soon as the males fertilise those eggs, the females can start producing more. But yeah, you know, if you want the extra colourful ones, maybe get more of the females and a couple of males just to make sure you are making more. But yeah, just bear that in mind. They are quite a bit of difference in colour. So yeah, bear that in mind. So yeah, just a quick one today on the cherry shrimp, the Neocaridina group of shrimp that we like to keep. Yeah, I would definitely highly recommend them, whether you're a beginner or very experienced with keeping fish and you've not kept many invertebrates before. The cherry shrimp is a great option. They will definitely make more, and you'll soon get to a point where you'll have a tank full of them and you can start spreading them around your other tanks. Let's be honest, some of them that are a lot less desirable colours, if you keep bigger fish as well, it can be nice to feed that tank with some of the really bland colour shrimps. You know they're coming from a good source, they make a really good food source for larger fish. You're not going to want them to be breeding with your colourful shrimp to basically make that line then turn into a more dull colour. So yeah, you can, if you're getting a load of shrimp that are completely bland and look very see-through in colour, you can then feed them off to your other fish, which some people might not agree with, but then you know, you might put them in them tanks and there might be hiding places for those shrimp and they might not always get consumed. So they might then live on, and you might have another group of shrimp that make a slightly different colour variant living on in a tank with larger fish in. You know, some will get consumed, but some, you'd be surprised, some shrimp make it. You know, I've had it before. I've had my big 6-foot tank and I put a few shrimp in there early on, and then when I broke down the tank there was still some shrimp alive hiding away in floating plants and bits like that. Just goes to show that they do get missed. I would definitely highly recommend them. Let me know in the comments what you think and what you think of cherry shrimp, whether you kept them before and whether you've had success or whether you just can't seem to keep them alive. Let me know whether this video has helped you and whether you had any more advice to recommend to other people in the comments below. So yeah, I look forward to seeing you in the next one. Take care.